Hi everyone, this is Dave Vanderweck, Tech Manager at the New Jersey Paranormal Group, and this is our live demo portion of the Finding EVPs using Audacity Part 1. We already had the class at our Sussex County meeting in January. We're having Part 2 at our Sussex County meeting in February of 2013. So this is just a re-recording of what we went over in the meeting. And this was the basics of finding EVPs using Audacity, and we're assuming at this point that you do have Audacity installed and will have some MP3 or other format files from your video recorders or audio recorders that you'd like to use. So we're going to work on a audio file we have here. This was from a location called Merchant and Drover's Tavern. This is about a 5-minute clip of approximately 3 hours of audio we have. This clip is using a voice recorder and a fellow investigator that we investigated the location with. So we'll open this up here. And just remember, when you're working with large audio files or small audio files, the amount of time it takes to load it is based on the size of the file. So it's always good to try and break large files up into multiple pieces right away. That was about a 5-minute clip and it loaded fairly fast, but when you're trying to load up an entire 3 hours of audio recording, it can take quite a while on Audacity. So the first thing I like to do here is go down to our audio spectrum here, and I like to left click with my mouse on the bottom and drag our graph down. Maybe about 3/4 of the way down. Just makes it a little bit easier to see the scale over here and actually see the audio. And we're going to leave a little space open down here, and I'll show you why later. It's another feature in Audacity. And this is one of the main reasons we use Audacity. So right now we have our audio file open here, and the next thing we want to do is save this MP3 file as an Audacity project. So what that means, what is an Audacity project? Basically, we don't want to alter the MP3 file or the original audio. We want to keep it intact as is, not change anything about the file, because you don't want it to be discredited because you've altered the volume or changed the frequency or anything to try and map out an EVP. But the other thing is we use some of the tools in Audacity to help us mark off and easily analyze the MP3 in the software, and those markers and different techniques we use cannot be embedded back into the MP3 file. So the Audacity project file is basically like an add-on, and it attaches to the MP3 file. So the Audacity file will store certain information about the project we're working on, which is this recording, and it'll be attached to the audio without affecting the original audio. So what we do here is go up to the File menu, and we're going to say Save Project. It just tells us that we're going to be saving it as an Audacity project, just so we know. And if you want to save your audio, that you need to use the export commands, which we'll go over later. So we're just going to hit OK. It's going to ask me where, so I'm going to save it in my same folder using the same name. The only difference is this has an AUP for Audacity project file. And remember again with the project file, because it is scanning the audio and creating some markers and what you might call hooks into the audio, it's going to take as long as the audio is. So if it took 30 minutes to load up your 3 hours of audio, when you save the project file out the first time, it's going to take 30 minutes to save it back out. Okay, so now we're all saved. So now we're working in an actual Audacity project. So we have our window already resized to make it easily to work with. One of the first things I want to go over is volume versus gain. Now, there's two different ways to adjust the volume in here. You always want to be listening to your EVPs, if possible, with a headset. Good over-the-ear headphones so that it blocks out background noise. They have a good dynamic range, so you're going to hear the most of your audio you can. And when you plug those in, chances are the volume on your computer is going to be very loud. One thing you want to not do is adjust the volume on your computer, because it can be tricky. The scale doesn't work real well. Everybody has their little speaker icon down here in Windows, down in the lower right hand corner, if you see where I'm pointing, that you can bring up and adjust your audio volume of your computer. I try and get away from doing this because it's just not tuned right for doing that type of thing. So what we do is we're going to go up here to the built-in volume slider that's in Audacity. This is up in the top center of the toolbar. I have it set really low right now. It's about on the second notch, where I typically like to have it when I'm using headphones. If you're listening on large speakers to play it back for somebody else, you can always crank it up to the top end, but you're going to have to play around with whatever's comfortable. You don't want to blow your eardrums out, but at the same time you don't want to miss anything. So that's how you would adjust the volume. So here, if we go and play the audio, it's very faint. Now if I stop and change this all the way up, it's going to be much louder than I can hear it, but at that point, if I was wearing headphones, I would probably have blown my ears out. It would be very, very loud on headphones. So we're going to keep it down low for now. The other thing is gain. The gain is right down here. This is this knob that's on the left hand bar of the track. And you have a negative and positive gain, and right now it's set at 0. Gain of 0 decibels. What gain basically does is it doesn't boost the speakers up and down. It basically amplifies the audio file. And with amplification of the audio comes distortion. So if you have an audio file that was recorded very faint on the recorder because it was far, far away from the source of your audio, say you think you have an EVP because the recorder was on the left side of the room and the spirit might have been on the right side of the room, so it's very faint, you may want to use gain to try and amplify it a little bit to try and hear. But what you have to remember is as you jack the gain up and increase the decibels, it's going to vibrate the speakers to the point where it's going to be distorted and you're not going to hear it as well. So you're only going to want to use gain on those occasions that you might need to boost it a little bit, and assuming that you already have the audio volume control all the way up. So that's volume versus gain. The next thing we're going to do is actually try and find an EVP here. So I'm going to turn the volume up here a little bit more so we can hear this. And we're going to press play here, and we're going to start listening. And this is a conversation between one of our investigators and some spirits that we know to be in the room currently.
You like to play ball? You don't like to play ball? Huh? Do you like jacks? That's ball.
Okay, so what we heard here when we went through this audio the first time was the investigator was asking if the presence in the room liked to play ball, and we didn't receive an answer. And then next she proceeded to another question and said, do you like to play jacks? And right after asking the question, we heard the word ball come up on the audio recording. So the word ball was somewhere in this area where you see my little bar cursor. So what we do is if we want to try and narrow down where that is and work on it, I basically move my cursor over into the area where I want to start and hold down my left mouse button. Then I can drag and highlight over the area where I think the audio is and let go once I have it. Once I have that area, I can zoom in to work better with this. So up here you have a couple buttons that are for zooming the project in. If I go to this one that says Fit Selection, it's going to take that small selection that we already created over here, and it's going to zoom it to the project window. So basically it looks the same, you still see your audio waves, but this is just that small portion now broken out to be the whole width of the window. So if we go back and play this again,
Jacks? That's ball.
we can hear right in this area here was where he said ball. So we know this is the area where our EVP is. So we want to make sure that, with any EVP, you don't just save the EVP, because if it has no context, you're not going to know it's an EVP. Some people might say, well, maybe there was a boy in the room. So we try and make sure that you highlight enough area here that you have a little bit of the investigator asking the questions and then the response. So what I did right here is probably perfect. If I wanted to shrink it a little bit, I could probably go back and get rid of some of this noise in the back. So we'll play one more time.
Jacks. That's ball.
And we hear ball stops right about here. So we want to get rid of some of this tail noise. So what I do is I highlight, and I just prefer to do this this way from right to left. It's easier for me. Is I'll highlight from here and then hold down your button and go all the way back to the beginning of your audio clip. Oh, I overshot there. Let's try that again. See, it's a little tricky. It takes you a couple shots to get used to, but you'll get it. So then we go back to about here and stop. And I can go back to here and zoom it in again. And now we have that shortened clip.
Jacks. That's ball.
Okay, so now we have our shortened clip. So now we have that clip and I know where it is. It's down here on my selection bar. I know it starts at about 17 seconds and goes to 20 seconds. It's about a 3-second clip. I want to indicate where that is because I may have hundreds of EVPs in a 3-hour piece of audio. You never know. Or we may have 2. But I like to go through all the audio in one shot and go back and pull all the audio clips out later. So what I'm going to do is create a new label by going up here to Tracks, and we're going to say Add Label at Selection. So this is this selected area that I'm working with, my little highlighted area. And if you see, it created a new label track down below. That's the reason we left room down here, was for the label track. And it gives me a cursor to type it in. So I'm just going to, I like using the word EVP, so I always put square brackets and EVP. It's just my way of doing it. You can do whatever you want. This will later get translated to the file name of a clip. So you have to make sure the characters you use are proper in file names on your Windows or Apple system. So you have to stick through A through Z, 0 through 9, and square brackets, hyphen, underscore. Try and avoid any crazy characters like question marks or plus marks. Those typically don't work with file names. So we do EVP hyphen, and then I'm going to just say ball. Nice easy marker for me. I can always detail it out later, but this is a good indicator for me, and hit enter. So now I have that label. So now I want to go back and continue looking. So how do I get back to my original audio? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to this next button, which is Fit Project. So now this takes the entire project and fits it to the screen. So I click that, and again, depending on the size of your audio, it could take a few seconds to resize it to the window. And now we have back our original. And you can see over here we have our label track and we have our EVP. Now if you have a lot of EVPs condensed in a short area, maybe even overlapping if there's a conversation, you may have a bunch of labels on top of each other. So that's the reason we left room down here, is because you can also drag this label track and make more room. So as you have EVPs that are kind of stacked on the audio track, it will stack them vertically to make enough room for them. So now we have enough room for our labels. So next one I'm going to go to is, to save some time so we don't have to listen to an entire minute or so, I know that there's another EVP up here, about the 125, 127 marker. So I'm going to start and just click once here. I don't want to highlight, I just want to click. And you'll see it draws a vertical line with a little play button. That means this is where the audio is going to start playing. So now if I click play.
Boy. How many kids are there? Is there one child? Are there 2 kids here? Yes. Are there 3 kids here? Are there 4 kids here?
Did you take a picture of the mirror?
Okay, so I think in this audio I heard something. I actually heard the investigator asking how many children were in the room. And she asked, is there one child? And we received nothing. It sounded like there was nothing after it. She asked again, is there 2 children? And we heard a faint voice, sound like a female voice, say yes. She asked if there were 3 children. And again, we heard a very faint voice say yes. And then near the end, she asked, are there 4 children? And we seemed to receive no response. So we think we have 2 EVPs in here. So again, we know about where everything is. So just again, my preference for easy highlighting is I start at the end here, and I'm just going to go right back to, vaguely where I think my audio began. I'm highlighted. I go over here and hit my fit to selection.
Boy. How many kids are is there?
So
one
now I know I
child?
have my section highlighted properly. I have my area. So I'm going to go back up here again to tracks, and I'm going to say add another label. And again, depending on the size of the selection, it may take a second to create the label. So here I'm going to, again, type EVP, and I am going to type in how many children, and just my indicator, I'm going to write yes, yes, just so I know I have 2 EVPs. And again, you're probably using a notebook or something to make more references and more notes, so you'll know exactly what this means. And then I hit enter. So now I go back and I'm going to hit fit my project again. And we know that there are more EVPs in this section, but we're going to stop it just to keep this short. So now we have our 2 EVPs. We might have gone through a couple hours of audio, and we may have 20 or 30 EVPs. You never know. Once we get all these EVPs labeled, now we want to get them out of here. At any time I can go back and recheck these just by simply clicking on the label, and I can hit play, and it plays just that section.
That's all.
So now I can do whatever I need to do, trim them, move them. You can also drag the little arrows down here to widen or shorten the clip you already have. And once you're satisfied where they are, you want to make sure that you either periodically or at the end go back to Save Project and update it, because it will now save these labels to the project file. So now they're attached to the audio, but it hasn't altered the audio file. So now we're going to go through and we're going to do some exporting of this to make sure that we get these out. So the first thing we want to do is we want to say export, just say this one. Say we end up with just one, and that's what we want to do, is get that one out. I can go up here once this is highlighted. This is my selection. I've clicked on it. I'm going to go up to File, and I'm going to say Export Selection. And it comes up and gives me a choice. My default, because I've used Audacity before, is it remembers that I want to do MP3. So I pick MP3. If it's your first time, you might have to set the format, and MP3 is good because you can adjust the quality, and it has good compression. So the audio still sounds good, but it's not going to take up a ton of room on your computer. So then I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go over to the options, and I want to make sure the quality remains at least as good as my recorder. Going higher than your recorder's quality really doesn't do anything. It doesn't enhance the audio. So if my recorder was 128 kilobit, I would probably set the quality for 128. It's not going to get any better, but the recorder I actually had it on extra long play, I believe it was, so that it recorded high quality. So that is 192, so I have it set for 192, and we just click OK. So now it's going to ask me for a name, so I'm going to leave it as Merchant and Drovers EVPs, and then I'm going to give it a title of EVP Ball. This is just for my reference, and then I hit Save. Now this next window that comes up is what's called metadata, or ID3 tags for an MP3. Basically, if you've ever had MP3 files on your little Walkman MP3 player, your iPod, or you've burned them on a CD and put them into your car, you've noticed that the title and track information comes up on the display. And the reason is because this is embedded into the audio. So this gives you the ability to do it to your own audio. And it's always good to do it just so that if you pass these MP3s around to people, they know what they are and whose they are. So for the artist name, we're just going to put in my name because I want to have credit for it. I can give it a full track title if I want, Merchant and Drovers EVP of Ball. And then if I want to give an album title, I can say, Merchant and Drovers EVPs. If you want to use track number, years, you can also do that. Genre, Genre, you know, there's classic, rock, and all your different formats and everything. You can create your own genre. So if I want to do EVP in here and create my own genre of EVP for my own records, I can do that. You can type in any comment you want. If you're going to do a lot of this, one good thing to do is make sure that you save it as a template. If you hit save, put in some basic information like your name, the year, maybe the genre, but don't necessarily fill out the title, because your title is not going to be the same for every single piece of audio you do. So just leave this like it is, save it as a template, and then next time you can load it, or set it as your default so it always comes up with at least your name, the year, and the genre. We hit OK, and now it's going to save the file out. You saw it flash real quick, and we're good to go. So now that we have that, we can go back and do whatever we need to do. Say now I've labeled out 30, and I want to get all 30 out. It's going to take forever to go back and do one by one by one. You could spend hours saving them all out. So Audacity has a nice tool, and this is the reason we use the labeling, is you can go in here and say export multiples. Beauty of this is it exports every single label you created in here as an MP3 file or whatever format you choose. So again, I'm going to choose MP3, my options of 192. I'm going to pick out the export location where I want to save these. So I'm going to go to my presentations folder. I am going to go to my Audacity folder. I am going to go to my merchant. Actually, we're going to leave it in the main folder. I don't want to go into the data folder. And we're going to hit save. And we want to basically leave everything on the left here like it is. The settings on the right. By default, I believe it's on used label and track name. I like to change it to the middle one, numbering before label, because it'll number each one. Give it a number 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3 in the order that your labels are in the label track. So we do this, and we are going to now hit export. Again, it is going to go through the metadata for every single one of your labels. So again, this is a little time consuming, but you can quickly click through it if you have a template. At least all the information will be the same except for the title. So we can, change the title or track, but it'll use whatever I typed here in the label. So as long as your labels are pre-thought out, it makes a good track title to start with. And that's the whole reason we said that it needs to be using file acceptable characters, because that's going to become the file name. So we hit OK. You'll see the next one change to the how many children. We hit OK. And now it's exporting. And now it just told me a list of, it exported these, and if I look over here you'll see it exported EVP ball MP3 and number 2 EVP how many children. So it numbered them in order of the labels. So we hit OK, closes it out. So now I have all these 30 clips, 40 clips, whatever I had, all saved out. I might like to make some notes and everything if I'm going to post this on a website, or I'm going to do a presentation to my group. So the other thing I can do is I can export all these labels to a text file to easily copy and paste it to an email or a Word document. So if I go in here and do File, and I do Export Labels, it's going to ask me to create a text file. So I'm going to call it, Merchant and Drovers, EVPs. I'll put a little underscore in here so that looks clean, and just leave it as TX. Actually, you want to put maybe labels in here so we know what they are, and then TXT, text file. Hit save, and basically it just created a text file that has a list in order of all the labels with their time, start, and end positions in the file that I can copy and paste to anything I need. So now I have all my data. You've learned how to do the metadata for the tags. So that basically gives you everything you need. And we're going to go look at the folder quick here to see what we got. So I'm going to go out to where I have all my stuff stored on my network. And we're going to go to my presentation folder. We're going to go to my Audacity presentations. And what you'll see that I have here is now I have my 2 MP3 files, the ball and how many children. And We have our original project files are in here too, the Audacity project file and the first audio file that I exported earlier. So now I have all these saved out for any use later to do whatever I need to do. And what you'll see here is if you look in this data folder that got created by the project, you have a whole bunch of audio clips. So basically what it did was it also made a copy of the audio and broke it out into a way that Audacity understands it. So that's kind of your backup of your audio. But at all times your original MP3 is always intact, so you don't have to worry about that. So that's it. Once you're done, then you can, again, make sure your project is saved. It's not highlighted, so it's already saved. Hit close, and you can move on to your next file. So I hope you enjoyed part 1. We're going to get this posted on the website for everybody, and stay tuned. We'll do part 2, and I'll also do a follow-up video coming towards the end of February.